What if I told you that your ancestors lived in a world where stepping outside meant facing creatures that could swallow you whole, crush your skull with a single bite, or snatch you from the ground with talons the size of kitchen knives? This isn't science fiction. This is the world humans actually survived in. And if you think you know about prehistoric giants, wait until you hear what really lurked in the shadows of our ancestors' world. Hit that like button and subscribe, because you're about to discover the monsters that should have made humanity extinct, but somehow didn't. Everyone remembers the dinosaurs. Those colossal reptiles that dominated Earth for 165 million years have captured our imagination for generations. But here's what most people don't realize. The age of dinosaurs wasn't the most dangerous time for humans. Why? Because we weren't around yet. The real nightmare began 66 million years ago when that infamous asteroid slammed into what is now Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, creating a chain reaction that wiped out 3/4 of all plant and animal species on Earth. But nature abhors a vacuum. As the dust settled and ecosystems slowly recovered, life didn't just return, it exploded. Without the dinosaurs monopolizing resources, mammals that had spent millions of years scurrying in the shadows suddenly had room to evolve. And evolve they did, growing larger, more diverse, and infinitely more dangerous. The Earth transformed into an arena of giants where only the biggest, strongest, and most adaptable could survive. This is where our story truly begins, in a world where humans weren't predators, but prey. The frozen titans of the Ice Age. Picture this: endless white plains stretching to the horizon, temperatures plummeting to minus 40 degrees, and howling winds that could strip flesh from bone. This was Earth during the Pleistocene epoch, better known as the Ice Age. It was a crucible that forged some of the most magnificent and terrifying creatures ever to walk our planet. The dominant rule of survival in frozen wastelands is simple: get big or die. Larger bodies retain heat better, a principle scientists call Bergmann's rule. This is why the Ice Age became an era of unprecedented gigantism, transforming Earth into what could only be described as a zoo of monsters. And the undisputed king of this frozen kingdom? The woolly mammoth. Standing over 16 feet tall at the shoulder and weighing up to 14 tons, roughly equivalent to 2 fully loaded dump trucks, the woolly mammoth was a living fortress. But size alone doesn't tell their story. These weren't just big elephants with fur. They were evolutionary masterpieces, perfectly adapted machines designed for survival in conditions that would kill most modern animals within hours. Consider their ears. While African elephants sport ears nearly 3 feet across to dissipate heat, mammoth ears were barely 6 inches, 15 times smaller. Those tiny, human-like ears pressed flat against their massive skulls, minimizing precious heat loss in sub-zero temperatures. Every aspect of their anatomy tells a story of adaptation: their stocky legs for trudging through snow, their humped backs storing vital fat reserves, and their woolly coat, 2 layers of fur consisting of long outer guard hairs up to 3 feet long and a dense, insulating undercoat. But the mammoth's most iconic features were undoubtedly its tusks. These weren't just impressive ornaments. Adult mammoths carried curved ivory weapons reaching up to 16 feet in length, each one weighing over 220 pounds. These massive tools served multiple purposes: bulldozing through snow to reach buried vegetation, defending against the era's apex predators, and, perhaps most dramatically, battling rival males during breeding season. Imagine 2 multi-ton beasts clashing tusk to tusk, the sound echoing across frozen valleys like thunder. Despite their imposing size, mammoths were dedicated herbivores, and feeding that enormous body required constant effort. Each mammoth consumed up to 550 pounds of vegetation daily, equivalent to eating 2,200 quarter-pound burgers every single day. They spent up to 18 hours daily trudging across the tundra, using their sensitive trunks to locate moss, grass, and shrubs buried beneath the snow. Their teeth deserve special mention. Mammoth molars, weighing up to 9 pounds each, were replaced 6 times throughout their 60-year lifespan, a biological conveyor belt designed for grinding through tough, fibrous plants. Now, here's where it gets interesting for us humans. We didn't just know about mammoths from fossils. Our ancestors lived alongside them, hunted them, painted them on cave walls, and carved their images into bone and stone. In caves across Europe, from Spain to Russia, archaeologists have discovered stunning mammoth art created by people who saw these giants with their own eyes. But don't let their herbivore diet fool you into thinking mammoths were gentle. When threatened, these behemoths could become terrifying engines of destruction, impaling saber-toothed cats on their tusks and flinging them through the air like rag dolls, or simply charging at full speed, knocking down entire trees in their path. So what killed them? Contrary to popular belief, no single asteroid or volcanic eruption wiped out the mammoths. Their extinction was a slow, grinding process caused by multiple factors converging over thousands of years. Climate change destroyed the mammoth steppe, the vast, cold grasslands they depended on, replacing it with forests unsuitable for these massive grazers. Simultaneously, human hunting pressure increased as our ancestors developed more sophisticated weapons. The last mainland mammoths died around 10,000 years ago, though a population survived on Alaska's Wrangel Island until approximately 4,000 years ago, meaning the last mammoths died after the Great Pyramid of Giza was built. The saber-toothed nightmare. While mammoths dominated the frozen north, in the forests and grasslands to the south lurked something far more sinister. If you've ever felt uneasy about tigers or lions, let me introduce you to your worst nightmare made flesh, Smilodon, the legendary saber-toothed cat. At first glance, Smilodon resembled an oversized, heavily muscled lion, but that comparison does this predator a grave disservice. An adult Smilodon fatalis could weigh up to 880 pounds, nearly twice the weight of a modern male lion. They stood about 4 feet tall at the shoulder with extraordinarily powerful necks and chests, necessary to support and wield their most terrifying feature: canine teeth measuring up to 11 inches long, protruding from their mouths like curved daggers even when their jaws were closed. These weren't just oversized teeth, they were precision killing instruments. Smilodon's saber teeth grew twice as fast as those of modern big cats, reaching full development by age 3. But despite their fearsome appearance, these teeth were actually quite fragile. They could snap if used incorrectly, which means Smilodon couldn't bite and hold struggling prey as modern cats do. Instead, fossil evidence reveals a far more terrifying hunting strategy. Smilodon would use its incredibly powerful forelimbs, stronger than any modern cat's, to wrestle prey to the ground and hold it immobile. Then, with surgical precision, it would open its jaws an astonishing 120 degrees and drive those saber teeth into the victim's throat or belly, severing vital arteries or puncturing internal organs. Death came in seconds, not minutes. What made Smilodon even more formidable was evidence suggesting they hunted cooperatively, much like modern lions. Fossils from the La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles show individuals with healed injuries that would have prevented them from hunting. The only way these animals could have survived was if other pack members brought them food, clear evidence of social bonds and cooperative behavior. And yes, they encountered humans. Some ancient human skulls bear distinctive puncture marks consistent with Smilodon's canines, suggesting that our ancestors occasionally became prey. Imagine the terror of being stalked by an 880-pound cat with 8-inch fangs, moving silently through the underbrush. It's a miracle we survived at all. Australia's dragon. While giants dominated the northern continents, on the isolated landmass of Australia, evolution took an even more terrifying turn. Here, separated from the world's mammalian predators, reptiles grew to monstrous proportions. And none were more fearsome than Megalania, the largest venomous land vertebrate ever known. If you've seen documentaries about Komodo dragons, impressive lizards that can reach 10 feet and weigh 200 pounds, you have a starting point. Now multiply that by 3. Megalania grew up to 23 feet long and weighed over 2,200 pounds, with a head the size of a commercial refrigerator, teeth like serrated steak knives, and a tail that could shatter bones with a single swing. Picture a reptilian killing machine the size of a car, covered in armored scales, slowly crawling through eucalyptus forests with the patience of death itself. That's what early Aboriginal Australians faced when they arrived on the continent roughly 50,000 years ago. What made Megalania particularly nightmarish was its hunting strategy. Recent research suggests Megalania possessed venom glands similar to modern Komodo dragons, producing toxins that prevented blood clotting, induced shock, and caused severe tissue damage. A single bite would doom most prey animals. Megalania didn't need to fight or chase its victim to exhaustion. It just needed one bite. Then it could follow from a safe distance, waiting for the venom to work its horrific magic. But Megalania wasn't entirely patient. When hunting smaller prey, it could move with shocking speed despite its bulk, exploding from cover in a burst of reptilian fury. Those powerful legs could propel its massive body forward faster than a human could run, at least for short distances. Its diet included giant kangaroos, rhinoceros-sized wombats, and almost certainly humans. Archaeological evidence suggests Megalania survived until at least 40,000 years ago, overlapping with Aboriginal presence for thousands of years. Some researchers speculate that human hunting and fire stick farming may have contributed to Megalania's extinction by destroying its habitat and prey base. The real unicorn. Throughout human history, cultures worldwide have told tales of unicorns, magical, horse-like creatures with a single horn. But what if unicorns were real? They just weren't horses. They were rhinoceroses. Giant, shaggy, terrifying rhinoceroses. Meet Elasmotherium, also called the Siberian unicorn, a creature that makes modern rhinos look almost dainty by comparison. Elasmotherium stood approximately 6.5 feet tall at the shoulder, stretched nearly 15 feet long, and weighed up to 8,800 pounds, roughly the size of a mammoth. It roamed the Eurasian steppes from southern Russia to Mongolia, grazing on the tough grasses that covered those vast, windswept plains. But the truly remarkable feature was its horn. While modern rhinos have modest horns of keratin, Elasmotherium's single horn grew from its forehead and could reach over 5 feet in length, longer than most adult humans are tall. Imagine encountering a creature the size of a van, covered in thick, shaggy fur, with a horn as long as a person jutting from its skull. Now you understand why ancient humans might have created legends about these beasts. Elasmotherium's skull structure reveals massively overdeveloped neck muscles and a reinforced cranial base, suggesting this animal could deliver devastating ramming attacks. That horn wasn't just for show, it was a weapon capable of impaling predators, breaking through ice, knocking down small trees, and defending against rival males during mating season. Here's what makes Elasmotherium particularly significant. It survived until remarkably recently. Recent radiocarbon dating reveals Elasmotherium lived until approximately 29,000 years ago, well into the era of anatomically modern humans. This means our ancestors, who had already mastered fire and created sophisticated tools, shared the Eurasian steppes with these magnificent beasts. Ancient petroglyphs and oral traditions from Central Asia describing giant horned beasts may well be cultural memories of actual Elasmotherium encounters. Like so many Ice Age giants, Elasmotherium couldn't adapt quickly enough when climate change transformed its grassland habitat into forests and tundra. As the specialized grasses it depended on disappeared, so too did the Siberian unicorn, leaving behind only bones, legends, and the eternal human fascination with horned creatures. The predator from the sky. Now let's travel to prehistoric New Zealand, where the most terrifying predator wasn't a cat, a bear, or a wolf. It was an eagle, but not just any eagle. The Haast's eagle was the largest eagle ever to exist, weighing up to 40 pounds with a wingspan approaching 10 feet. While that might not sound enormous, consider this. Haast's eagle regularly hunted and killed prey, weighing over 440 pounds, more than 10 times its own weight. Its primary target? The moa, a group of massive, flightless birds that stood up to 12 feet tall. Haast's eagle employed an attack strategy that would make modern raptors seem timid. It would perch in tall trees overlooking moa foraging grounds, scanning with eyes capable of spotting movement from over a mile away. When it identified a target, this feathered assassin would drop from its perch and dive, building tremendous speed while staying concealed by the forest canopy. The attack came with shocking suddenness. Just before impact, the eagle would swing its legs forward, presenting talons nearly 3 inches long. Daggers powered by muscles evolved specifically for penetrating thick hide and bone. It would strike the moa's back or neck with such force that the impact alone could break vertebrae. Those massive talons would lock into the prey's body, and then the eagle would use its powerful, hooked beak to deliver fatal blows to the skull or neck. But here's what makes this even more remarkable. Haast's eagles evolved from much smaller ancestors in just 1 to 2 million years. When the first eagle ancestors arrived in New Zealand from Australia, they probably weighed only 2 to 3 pounds. But in an ecosystem with no mammalian predators and abundant large prey, natural selection favored larger and larger eagles until they evolved into 40-pound monsters. Which brings us to a disturbing question. Did Haast's eagles hunt humans? The first Polynesian settlers arrived in New Zealand around 1250 AD, and Maori oral traditions speak of a massive bird called te hokioi that could attack and carry off humans, particularly children. Were these legends based on actual encounters? Scientists remain divided, but the evidence is compelling. Haast's eagles certainly had the size and weaponry to kill humans. If they regularly took down 440-pound moa, a 150-pound human would be well within their capabilities. Some researchers suggest that early Maori may have lost children to these eagles, experiences that became embedded in their oral traditions. But the relationship between humans and Haast's eagles was ultimately brief. As Maori populations grew and spread across New Zealand, they hunted the moa as a primary food source. Within just 200 years of human arrival, Every single moa species was hunted to extinction, and with their primary prey gone, the Haast's eagle followed them into oblivion by approximately 1400 AD. The lesson is stark. Even apex predators are vulnerable when you remove their food source. The modern monster. If you think all of Earth's most terrifying reptiles are safely extinct, let me tell you about Lolong, a creature that lived in our time, in our world, and reminded us that some monsters never went away. In 2011, livestock began disappearing in Bunawan, a small town in the Philippines. Then a farmer vanished. Then a 12-year-old girl. When search parties found what remained of the victims, the evidence pointed to something massive, ancient, and terrifyingly close to human settlements. After weeks of tracking, using live chickens as bait and deploying dozens of hunters, authorities finally cornered the culprit in a creek. What they pulled from the water was something out of prehistory, a saltwater crocodile over 20 feet long, weighing 370 pounds, the largest crocodile ever captured alive. They named him Lolong, after Ernesto Lolong Cañete, one of the veteran crocodile hunters who died of a heart attack during the capture operation, possibly from the stress of confronting such a massive reptile. When measured by Guinness World Records officials, Lolong measured exactly 20.24 feet from snout to tail, longer than most cars, heavier than a small pickup truck, and equipped with jaws capable of generating 3,700 pounds of bite force, enough to crush a human skull like an eggshell. At approximately 50 years old when captured, Lolong had spent 5 decades silently hunting in the waterways of Mindanao, an area locals called the Devil's Waters. He had almost certainly killed and consumed humans, though exact numbers remain unknown. After his capture, Lolong died in 2013 from pneumonia and cardiac arrest, worsened by fungal infection and the immense stress of confinement. But here's the truly unsettling part. Lolong might not have been the largest. Saltwater crocodiles can live over 100 years and never stop growing. In remote areas of Southeast Asia, Australia, and the Pacific Islands, there are persistent reports of crocodiles significantly larger than Lolong, monsters reaching 23 to 25 feet, weighing over 3,000 pounds. These reports remain unconfirmed, but they remind us that even in the 21st century, true monsters might still exist in the shadows. The world we inherited. This was the world our ancestors inhabited, not the comfortable, climate-controlled, predator-free environment we take for granted, but a planet where humans occupied the middle of the food chain, where stepping outside meant confronting creatures that could kill you in dozens of different ways, where survival required constant vigilance, incredible courage, and a level of toughness modern humans can barely imagine. Every human alive today is descended from people who survived this gauntlet of giants. Our ancestors walked the same ground as mammoths, hid from Smilodon, avoided megalania, and somehow persevered through it all. They didn't just survive, they thrived, eventually becoming the dominant species on the planet. But that dominance came at a cost. Many scientists now believe humans played a significant role in the extinction of Pleistocene megafauna through hunting, habitat modification, and competition for resources. Whether we should feel guilty about this is debatable, but there's no denying that human arrival in new territories often coincided with waves of extinction among large animals. As we face our own era of environmental challenges, studying these extinct giants offers valuable lessons. Climate change, habitat loss, and human activity can drive even the mightiest creatures to extinction. The mammoths couldn't adapt quickly enough. The Haast's eagle couldn't survive without its prey. The Siberian unicorn couldn't migrate fast enough to find new grasslands. The question facing us now is, what will our descendants say about the world we left them? Will they look back at this era the way we look back at the extinction of the mammoths, as a tragic but inevitable natural process? Or will they judge us for failing to protect the remaining giants that still walk, swim, and fly among us? Because make no mistake, we still live in a world of giants, and they depend on us to ensure they don't join the mammoths and Smilodon in extinction. The age of giants isn't entirely over, but it will be unless we choose differently. Which of these prehistoric beasts impressed you most? Could you have survived in a world where humans were prey instead of predators? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you made it this far, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Next time, we're exploring creatures that survived multiple mass extinctions and still walk among us today. Thanks for watching, and remember, the past isn't as distant as you think.